The galaxy was burning. For the alien race called the Rillans, every day had become a nightmare. Their homeworld, Rilla Prime, was once bright and full of life. Blue oceans, silver forests, and tall crystal towers made it one of the most beautiful planets in their region. But now, everything was smoke, fire, and ash. A powerful enemy called the Void Serpents had come for them, an enemy with no face, no mercy, and no fear. They destroyed cities with a single shot and swallowed entire fleets like shadows eating light. Every Rillan ship that tried to fight them had turned into dust. Their leaders gathered in a broken command hall. The floor shook. Cracks spread across the walls. They knew the truth. They had no chance left. They needed help. And there was only one species they could ask. The Rillans feared humans, but they also respected them. Humanity had not joined any war for 200 years. Humans stayed silent, hidden, watching the galaxy without speaking. Some believed humans were weak. Others believed humans were planning something. But nobody knew the truth. Still, the Rillans had no choice. They prepared their last refugee ship, carrying 40,000 survivors. Mothers, children, elders, injured soldiers. Everyone climbed aboard with shaking hands. When the ship's engines roared to life, many looked back at their burning world one last time. A young Rillan child asked her mother, "Will the humans help us?" The mother did not know the answer. She whispered, "We pray they will." The ship rose into space, leaving behind the only home they had ever known. Behind them, Rilla Prime cracked in half like glass. A final scream of the planet echoed through the sensors. The Void Serpents had won. The Rillans could only run. The long journey to Earth. The refugee ship traveled for weeks. Many systems failed. Their food stores dropped. Half of the passengers became sick because the air system broke in one section. Every few hours they sent messages toward Earth. "We beg for shelter. We beg for safety. Humanity, please answer us." But Earth said nothing. The silence felt heavy, cold, almost dangerous. Some believed humans were ignoring them. Others feared humans were preparing weapons to destroy them if they came too close. Still, the refugee ship kept moving. When the blue globe of Earth finally appeared ahead, calm, beautiful, and shining like a jewel, the passengers cried. They thought their suffering might finally end. But then something strange happened. Earth's orbit looked empty. No warships. No satellites. No defenses. Nothing. "Why is it so quiet?" the captain asked. "Humanity is powerful. Where are their fleets?" The crew scanned again. Still nothing. A soft fear spread across the ship. What if humans had abandoned Earth? What if humans had already fallen to some unknown enemy? What if the Rillans had come here, for nothing? As the refugee ship entered low orbit, a sudden sound broke the silence. A single human transmission. "Cold. Come. Strong. Rillan refugee ship, this is Earth Command. Hold your position. Do not panic." The Rillans froze. Earth had finally spoken. Before anyone could respond, the stars around them began to disappear. One by one, lights in the sky faded, as if something enormous was blocking them. The Rillans looked through the windows. And they saw shadows, huge shadows, moving in the darkness. Not shadows. Warships. Hundreds of human warships slowly uncloaked, revealing themselves. Black armor. Glowing blue engines. Cannon towers like the tops of mountains. Their sizes broke every Rillan record. Some were the length of cities. Some were as tall as space stations. Some radiated so much power that the refugee ship's sensors overloaded. Humanity had never been silent. Humanity had been watching. Humans had seen the Rillans' desperate messages the whole time. They waited, tested, observed. Humans did not show their true strength until the Rillans reached Earth. A new voice came from the human flagship. "You are safe now. No one will harm you. Not while humanity stands." The entire refugee ship cried. Some from relief. Some from fear. Humans were far stronger than anyone imagined. A new home. Then the humans revealed something unbelievable. A giant screen appeared in the Rillan ship's view. They saw a new world, an artificial planet orbiting far from Earth. Bright oceans. White continents. Golden clouds. Perfect atmosphere. Humans had built an entire world. "This is Haven 1, the human commander said. "Your new home. We built it for species who seek safety." Around Haven 1, 3 massive human war armadas floated like steel guardians. Each armada was powerful enough to destroy an empire. The Rillans could not believe it. Humanity had already prepared a home for them, even before they asked. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not silent. Humanity was planning always. The final twist. As the Rillan ship began traveling toward their new home, alarms suddenly screamed. Something was following them. A giant fleet. Spiked ships with dark purple energy. The same ships that destroyed Rilla Prime. The Void Serpents had found them. The Rillans panicked. But the human commander spoke with a calm voice. Do not fear. They will not touch you. We will deal with them. The screen showed human armadas turning their cannons toward the enemy fleet. Humanity stood between the Rillans and death. And war was about to begin. The Void Serpent fleet moved like a dark storm across space. Their ships were sharp, twisted, and covered in living metal. Purple energy pulsed through their hulls like veins. Every few seconds, one of their vessels released a low, deep roar, almost like a monster preparing to strike. Inside the Rillan refugee ship, fear spread like fire. Children cried. Adults trembled. Soldiers who once fought bravely now felt small. The captain stared at the sensors. There are hundreds of them, he whispered. Maybe thousands. The Rillans had no weapons left. No strength. No plan. They were trapped, floating in space between Earth and Haven 1, with an enemy behind them and a mysterious human armada ahead. Would the humans really protect them? Nobody knew. The Void Serpents had destroyed entire civilizations. They had eaten stars, broken moons, and turned proud empires into ruins. Could even humanity stand against them? The Rillan captain closed his eyes. This is the end, he thought. But then, a loud signal echoed across the ship. Human Fleet Command broadcasting to all Rillan passengers. Priority message. The refugees listened as a calm human officer spoke. This is Admiral Reeve of the Terran Protectorate. Remain calm. You are under our shield. The Rillans looked outside their windows. Human warships began moving. Not slowly. Not gently. But with perfect coordination, sharp, precise, controlled. Like giants waking from deep sleep. Humanity's first move. The largest human ship, the TNS Leviathan, positioned itself between the Rillans and the Void Serpents. Its black armor reflected no light. Blue runes glowed along its surface, ancient symbols from Earth's oldest civilizations. To the Rillans it looked like a mountain floating in space. To the enemy it looked like a challenge. The Void Serpents released a wave of shadow energy, testing the humans. The blast hit the Leviathan directly. The Leviathan did not even shake. A deep human voice transmitted afterward. Level 1 strike detected. No damage sustained. The Rillans gasped. Their own capital ships were shattered by a single hit. Human ships didn't even move. Then more serpent ships came forward, forming attack patterns. Their front lines glowed with purple fire. The enemy was preparing to strike with full power. Admiral Reeve watched silently from the Leviathan bridge. His crew waited for orders. Finally, Reeve lifted a hand. Activate the shield wall. The shield wall, humanity reveals power. All human ships lit up at once. Blue energy spread between them like a giant web, creating a barrier the size of a continent. It glowed bright enough to turn darkness into daylight. The Rillans stared in disbelief. This was not technology. This looked like magic. The Void Serpents released their main attack, a blast big enough to tear a planet apart. The purple energy storm hit the human shield wall head-on. Boom. The entire galaxy seemed to shake. But the shield did not break. Instead, the human barrier absorbed the energy and turned it into light. A brilliant flash spread across space. When it faded, the Void Serpent fleet looked confused. Admiral Reeve finally spoke. My turn. Human retaliation. Human warships opened fire in perfect sync. Beams of white, blue, and silver shot across space. Their weapons were so powerful that each blast created ripples in the Void Serpent's living metal hulls. The enemy ships screamed, the sound traveling through subspace like dark thunder. Rillans watched with wide eyes. Their enemy was finally suffering. The Leviathan launched its main cannon. A beam of pure energy shot forward, silent and deadly. It cut through 6 Void Serpent cruisers in one hit. The enemy fleet broke formation, panicking. But they were too slow. Human destroyers moved like predators. Human fighters swarmed like angry stars. Human drones sliced through enemy engines with surgical precision. The battlefield became a storm of light and shadow. In only minutes, the once terrifying Void Serpent fleet began losing ship after ship. For the first time in years, the Rillans saw hope. Inside the refugee ship, a young Rillan girl pressed her face against the window. Mother, the humans are winning. Her mother could barely speak. She had lost everything, her home, her family, her planet. But watching humans fight changed something inside her. For the first time she felt safe. The captain stood frozen. He whispered to himself, "Humanity, what are you really?" The enemy's last move. The Void Serpents, defeated and angry, gathered power for one final attack. Their largest ship, a massive creature-like battleship, opened dozens of glowing wounds along its surface. It prepared to release a world-killing blast. Human sensors detected it instantly. Admiral Reeve narrowed his eyes. The Leviathan's bridge went silent. "If that blast hits," an officer said, "the shockwave will reach the refugee ship." Admiral Reeve gave one order: protect the refugees. Even if we fall. The Leviathan powered up all systems. Humans would block the blast even if it meant their own destruction. The Rillans held their breath. The Void Serpent ship fired. Bright purple death rushed toward them. The human shield wall strained. Cracks of blue energy spread. Warning alarms filled the Leviathan. The Rillans screamed. The blast pushed harder, like a star crashing into the barrier. Just when it seemed the shield would break, a new signal came from deep space. A new fleet. But not the enemy. Reinforcements. Human reinforcements. Hundreds more human warships arrived from hyperspace, surrounding the battlefield like a steel horizon. Admiral Reeve smiled for the first time. The Terran Protectorate stands united. The new fleets fired at once. The Void Serpent supership was torn apart in seconds. Silence filled space. The enemy was defeated. End of Part 2. Humanity had saved them. But the Rillans did not know. This battle was only the beginning. Because the Void Serpents were not alone. Someone far greater was controlling them. And humanity had sensed it. Silence stretched across space after the battle. Human ships held position, forming a protective circle around the Rillan refugee vessel. The destroyed remains of the Void Serpent fleet drifted like dark dust, glowing faintly with purple light before fading into the void. The Rillans could barely believe it. They had run for months. They had lost their home. They had watched their families burn. And yet, in 1 hour, humanity destroyed the monsters that destroyed them. But Admiral Reeve did not celebrate. His face remained serious, eyes fixed on the tactical display in front of him. Something was wrong. A new signal trembled across the Leviathan's sensors. Weak. Strange. Not from the Void Serpents. Not from any known enemy. It was coming from the edge of the system. A cold shiver ran across every human officer. The signal felt intelligent. Watching. Waiting. Back aboard the Rillan refugee ship. The passengers slowly calmed down. For the first time in months, they were able to breathe without fear clawing at their hearts. Children stopped crying. Elders finally sat down exhausted. But their captain did not relax. He stared at the human armada surrounding them. So many ships. So much power. So much silence. Humans were strong. Stronger than any species the Rillans had ever seen. Yet something about their quiet behavior worried him. He whispered to his first officer. These humans, they were prepared for the Void Serpents. Almost too prepared. The officer swallowed. "Captain, do you think the humans knew the serpents were coming?" The captain frowned. He wasn't sure. But deep inside he felt something. This was not humanity's first time fighting monsters like the serpents. Human command discovers the truth. On the Leviathan, Admiral Reeve stood in front of a holographic map. Blue dots marked the human fleets. Red dots marked the enemy ships destroyed. But now, a new symbol blinked on the map. A black symbol. One he hoped never to see again. The officers turned pale when they recognized it. A mark known as the Hands of the Architect. The Architect was only known in whispers among old human commanders. A being, perhaps a civilization, older than humanity. Older than Rillans. Older than even the serpents. Some said the Architect built entire species like tools. Some said they controlled life in the galaxy. Some said they created monsters and sent them to test civilizations. The Void Serpents were not a natural enemy. They were sent. And now the true sender had revealed a sign. A quiet officer spoke, voice shaking. "Admiral, this means the Architect is watching." Reeve clenched his jaw. They always watch. The question is, what do they want? But he knew the answer. They wanted to see how far humanity would go to protect someone else. The Rillans Reach Haven 1. The artificial world built by humans came into view, bright, peaceful, almost unreal. Its oceans shone like blue glass, and its green valleys stretched like gentle waves across its surface. For a moment, the Rillans forgot the fear behind them. Their ship slowly descended through the atmosphere. It felt warm. Safe. Clean. Alien children pressed their faces to the windows. "It looks like a dream," one whispered. Human landing teams waited below. They were calm, efficient, and strangely gentle. Even though they commanded war fleets strong enough to destroy empires, they guided the Rillan refugees as if handling fragile crystal. A human officer approached the Rillan captain. "Welcome to Haven 1. This world is your sanctuary." The captain bowed deeply. "You saved us. We can never repay." But the human officer raised his hand. "You do not need to repay anything. You asked for safety." We answered. Those words shook the captain's heart. These humans were not conquerors. Not tyrants. Not monsters. They were protectors. But then the human officer added quietly, "For now, stay inside the safe zones. It is for your own protection." Those words carried a hidden meaning. Something else was coming. Night falls on Haven 1. The Rillans were given houses, food, water, clean clothing, and medical care. Everything worked perfectly. Everything was peaceful. But everyone felt the tension in the air. Every few minutes, human shuttles flew across the sky. Every hour, human drones scanned the horizon. Every night, bright blue lights glowed faintly above the atmosphere, human battleships waiting just outside. Rillan children thought it was pretty. Adults understood it was a warning. Humanity was preparing for war. The void serpents were defeated. So why were the humans preparing for a larger battle? The Rillan captain could not sleep. He walked outside onto a balcony and looked up at the sky. The stars were beautiful from Haven 1, clear and bright. Then he saw it. A dark shape. A giant silhouette. Not a ship, something bigger. Something ancient. Something wrong. Slowly, the shadow drifted behind the moon of Haven 1 and disappeared. The captain fell to his knees. What was that? A voice answered behind him. It was the same human officer from earlier. He looked tired. Serious. Burdened. That, the officer said, was a scout from the architect. The captain froze. The one behind the void serpents? The officer nodded. They have noticed you survived. And they do not like that. The captain shook, terrified. What will they do now? The human officer looked up at the stars. We don't know. But whatever they send, humanity will stand in their way. His voice was calm. Deadly calm. And this time, he added, it will not be easy for us. Night on Haven 1 was quiet, but the quiet felt wrong. It was the kind of silence that hides danger in the dark. The Rillan captain stood beside the human officer, still shaken after seeing the giant shadow behind the moon. The captain whispered, "If the architect has found us, we are all in danger." The human officer nodded slowly. "Yes, but you are not alone. That is what matters." The words were calm, but behind them was something heavier, something the officer wasn't saying. The captain gathered his courage. "Tell me the truth, what is the architect?" The human officer's eyes darkened. "It is not a person. Not a species. Not a simple enemy." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "It is a force that shapes civilizations. It appears when a race grows too powerful, or too dangerous." The captain trembled. "And the void serpents?" "Created," the human said softly. "Made to test, weaken, or destroy." The captain grabbed a railing to steady himself. His world had been destroyed, not by fate, not by war, but by a distant intelligence playing games with lives. The officer continued. "The architect does not hate. It does not fear. It simply observes and adjusts. Sometimes it lets races live. Sometimes it erases them." The captain's voice cracked. "Why us?" The officer stared at the moon as if looking beyond it. "You were a lesson for someone else." The captain felt sick. "So we are nothing to them?" "To them?" The officer shook his head. "No. To them, nothing in the galaxy is anything." The captain's heart sank. But then the officer turned to him, eyes full of steel. "Humanity is different. We do not bow. We do not accept the architect's judgment. We fight it." The captain blinked. "Fight that thing?" The officer's jaw tightened. "We've been fighting it for a long time." Suddenly the ground rumbled slightly, soft vibrations. Not natural. The officer looked at his wrist pad and frowned. "They are arriving early. The human council arrives." Across the horizon, bright blue streaks appeared in the night sky. Dozens of them. They weren't meteors, they were ships entering the atmosphere at high speed. Human dropships. The captain watched them land near the central command base. Soldiers poured out, organized, silent, focused. Then a tall human woman stepped out of the largest vessel. She wore dark armor marked with ancient symbols. Her presence alone made the air feel heavier. The officer straightened immediately. Captain, this is High Commander Celine. The Rillan captain bowed. Celine's eyes glowed faintly with a silver light, enhancements far beyond normal humans. She spoke with a calm yet powerful voice. We have confirmed it, she said. The architect has sent a scout. And where scouts go, judgment follows. The Rillan captain felt cold. Will they attack Haven 1? Celine shook her head. Not directly. The architect never wastes effort. They will first calculate if you are worth erasing. The captain swallowed. And if they decide yes? Celine looked up at the sky. Then they will send something much worse than the Void Serpents. Human strategy meeting. The captain was invited into the human war room, something no alien had ever seen before. The room was circular, with floating holograms showing star maps, enemy signatures, and the structure of Haven 1. Blue light flickered across the walls. Humans moved with military precision, barely speaking, but understanding each other instantly. Celine stood in the center. Admiral Reeve, she said as the Leviathan appeared via hologram. What is the status of the front line? Reeve's projection bowed slightly. All 3 armadas are in position. Shield generators are on standby. We are ready for another Void Serpent assault. Good, Celine replied. But the architect's arrival changes things. Their weapons are not like the serpents. She tapped the hologram, changing it. An image appeared. A massive cube-shaped structure, glowing with white fire. The captain stepped back, horrified. What is that? Celine spoke quietly. A purifier. The captain shook. What does it do? A single purifier can sterilize a star system in hours. The room fell silent. The captain whispered. That is impossible. Celine looked at him with cold eyes. The architect believes nothing is impossible. Humanity's dark secret. The captain gathered courage. Why would they come now? Why protect us at all? Celine looked at him for a long moment. Finally she said, because you are not the first species we saved. The captain froze. Celine continued. The architect once targeted humanity. Thousands of years ago. Before we had fleets, before we built Haven, before we united. What happened? He whispered. Celine's voice grew softer. They tried to erase us. They sent storms, diseases, meteors, and artificial predators. Entire human civilizations were destroyed. We were almost wiped out. The captain stared in shock. But, you survived. Celine nodded. We fought back. We evolved. We built weapons that the architect did not expect. We broke their cycles. And when they returned, her eyes hardened. We made sure they understood humanity does not kneel. The captain trembled. So now they fear you? Celine spoke slowly. The architect does not feel fear. They only calculate risk. And right now, they are calculating whether protecting you makes humanity too dangerous. The captain sank into a chair. So, we brought danger to you. We brought death. Celine shook her head. No. You asked for safety. And humanity does not abandon those who ask. She leaned forward. But understand this. By saving you, we have declared war on something older than stars. The human warships continued to circle the newborn colony world like silent guardians. Their metal hulls reflected the cold starlight, and their engines hummed with controlled power. Every alien ship that passed near the system slowed down, scanned twice, and changed course immediately. No one wanted to challenge humanity's presence. But for the people living on the ground, both aliens and humans, life was only beginning. It had been 5 days since the first shelters were built. 5 days since the frightened refugees stepped onto the soil of their new world. 5 days since the promise of protection was made. Now everything was changing. The colony begins to grow. Commander Hale stood on a tall metal platform overlooking the construction zone. Dozens of machines crawled across the ground like huge insects, placing foundations, setting walls, and digging power routes. Aliens of different species worked side by side, still scared but trusting the humans who had given them sanctuary. Hale watched quietly as a group of young refugees walked past. Some of them were barely adults. Their eyes still held fear, but their steps were more confident now. They look better today, a voice said beside him. It was Lieutenant Mara carrying a small data pad. Food distribution is stable. Medical teams report improvement. And, no new panic incidents. Hale nodded slowly. Good. This world must feel like home soon. They deserve that much. Mara hesitated, biting her lips slightly. Sir, there is still one problem. Hale turned. What problem? Rumors. Someone is telling the refugees that the threat which destroyed their old colony, is coming here. Hale's jaw tightened. That was not just a rumor. It was true. And the refugees had no idea. The threat approaches. Far beyond the new colony, deep in dark space, something was moving, something powerful and hungry. A species known only in whispers. A species that chased fleeing refugees across star systems and burned their homes without mercy. The Naraxis swarm. They were the reason these aliens had begged humanity for help. And now, one of the swarm fleets was heading straight toward the new world. But only the human command knew it. Not the refugees. Not the children building their first houses. Not the workers planting crops in the red soil. Commander Hale watched the sky for a long time before speaking softly. We need more time. We need these people to feel safe before the storm arrives. Mara nodded. Yes, sir. But time is running out. Hale closed his eyes, remembering the destroyed refugee ships they had found in space. Burnt hulls. Silent distress beacons. No survivors. He opened his eyes again. Prepare the defense grid. Quietly. A warning from orbit. Captain Rourke, commanding the flagship Aegis Dawn, sat in his battle chair as dozens of holographic screens floated around him. The warship was on high alert. A sensor officer suddenly spoke, voice sharp. Captain, long-range scan update. The approaching signature has grown. Energy spikes confirmed. Rourke leaned forward. How large? Sir, it appears to be a full hunting pack. Around 40 enemy ships. The bridge fell silent. 40 Naraxis warships against the 20 human ones protecting the colony. The numbers were not good. But humans had never feared numbers. Rourke stood up. Send message to Commander Hale. Phrase code, Stormfront rising. He will understand. Yes, sir, the officer replied. The message carried a heavy meaning. The enemy is close. Prepare the colony. Protect the refugees. War is coming. A troubled night. On the surface, night had fallen. The second moon cast a pale blue glow over the half-built homes. The aliens slept in groups near the human patrol camps because the human presence made them feel safe. But 2 children were still awake, sitting near a small electric lamp. One was a red-hairy girl with silver skin. The other was a young insectoid boy with crystal-like eyes. Do you think the humans will really protect us? The boy whispered. The girl looked up at the sky where she could see the faint blue trails of human warships moving silently above. They will, she said. I can feel it. They didn't run away like the others. The boy nodded slowly, but fear still trembled in his voice. I just hope, whatever chased us does not come here. The girl glanced at the sky again. She didn't know that the danger was already coming. She didn't know that humanity was preparing for a war on her behalf. She didn't know that the humans would rather die than break their promise. Commander Hale's secret task. Deep inside the command building, Hale was studying battle simulations. Red holographic icons marked enemy positions. Blue ones marked human ships. The simulations showed one thing repeatedly. A direct battle would be brutal. Mara stepped in quietly. Sir, refugees are settling well. But, if something happens they have no idea how to evacuate. Hale nodded. Then we must make sure they never need to evacuate. He zoomed the display and pointed at enemy trajectories. This enemy destroys everything it touches. They are coming here because they think these refugees are weak, because they think humans will not interfere. He turned slowly, his face calm but hard like steel. They made a mistake. The calm before the storm. The next morning was unnaturally peaceful. Birds called from the new forests. Construction continued. Children laughed. Workers planted energy seeds in the soil. Refugees smiled for the first time in months. But high above the planet, human warships moved into formation. Slowly, quietly, like wolves preparing to face a monster. Humanity had chosen to protect this world. And humanity never broke a promise. The colony still believed this was a safe haven. They did not know a deadly swarm was approaching. They did not know war waited just beyond the stars. They did not know that humanity was getting ready to fight not for glory, not for power, but for them. The storm had not arrived yet, but everyone could feel the air changing. Something was coming. Something dangerous. Something that would test humanity's promise. And Part 6 would begin with the first shadow falling over the new world. For 7 days, the new colony lived quietly under the bright twin suns. The refugees built homes, planted crops, and learned to breathe without fear. Human soldiers watched over them like silent guardians, always calm, always ready, never showing the storm they expected. But on the 8th day, the sky changed. It began early in the morning when the air felt unusually still. Construction machines slowed as workers sensed something wrong. Even the alien wildlife stopped moving. A strange tension spread through the settlement like an invisible wave. Commander Hale stepped out of the command center and looked up. He saw it. A faint red flicker appearing above the clouds. Then another. Then 10 more. Not natural. Not friendly. It was a warning. First contact with the enemy. High above the planet, on the flagship Aegis Dawn, alarms echoed across the bridge. Captain. Multiple warp signatures detected. Captain Rourke stood tall as the view screens lit up with red icons, enemy ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The officer's voice trembled. Sir, it's the Neuraxis swarm. 43 ships. A heavy silence filled the room. Everyone had heard stories about the swarm, how they hunted fleeing civilizations, how they destroyed entire habitats just to make an example, how their ships moved like predators in a pack. Rourke clenched his jaw. They found the refugees, he said. And now they want to finish the job. Orders, sir? The weapons officer asked. Rourke stared at the red icons closing in. Hold position. Activate the shadow grid. And prepare all fleets for full engagement. A low rumble rolled through the ship as weapons came online and engines roared. Humanity was done being silent. Back on the surface, the red streaks in the sky grew brighter, spreading out like cracks across the heavens. Commander Hale lowered his binoculars. His face tightened. They're here, he said quietly. Lieutenant Mara stepped beside him. Should we warn the refugees? Hale's voice was steady. No, not yet. Panic will kill more people than the enemy. We hold the fear. Not them. Mara nodded, though her hands were shaking. A small alien child tugged her sleeve. He was the same insect-eyed boy from before. Why is the sky glowing? He asked softly. Mara paused for a moment, kneeling down. It's just human ships moving into position, she said gently. You're safe. The boy didn't fully believe it, but he smiled anyway, and ran back toward his group. Hale watched him leave. We will protect them, he promised silently. No matter the cost. The enemy sends a message. In orbit, one of the Neuraxis ships lit up, projecting a transmission request. Rourke frowned. The swarm rarely communicated. Put it on screen. A small orb-like creature appeared, surrounded by tendrils and glowing eyes. Its voice was thick, like metal grinding against stone. Human vessels, it hissed. You shelter prey that belongs to us. Rourke didn't blink. These people asked for our protection. Leave now. The creature's tendrils twitched, almost amused. You cannot protect them, it said. You cannot protect yourselves. Rourke leaned closer. Try us. The transmission cut instantly. The swarm ships began to move. The first attack. Suddenly, the enemy fleet broke into formation. Triangular assault lines, sharp and deadly. Sensors screamed. Multiple missiles inbound. The human fleet reacted instantly. Shadow grid active. Particle shields online. Countermeasures launching. Blue energy shields spread across the human warships like glowing armor. Defensive drones fired bright streaks into space, intercepting the first wave of missiles. Explosions lit the darkness, shaking the entire orbit. The battle had begun. Panic on the ground. The refugees noticed the explosions. Light flashed across the sky like distant lightning. Rumbling echoed over the colony. A frightened voice shouted. Something is happening above us. Another yelled. Are we under attack again? Panic spread fast, much too fast. Commander Hale raised a loudspeaker. Everyone stay calm. Human ships are handling the situation. Move to the safe zones immediately. But dozens of aliens were already running in every direction. Mara touched his arm. Sir, we can't hold them like this. They're too scared. Hale nodded sharply. Then we guide them. He moved quickly, pushing through the crowd. His voice was firm, steady, almost soothing. No one is in danger. Follow the soldiers. Stay together. Trust us. Slowly, the refugees began to move in groups toward the reinforced shelters. Human soldiers guided them with practiced discipline, shields glowing, weapons ready. But fear still trembled in the air. The battle turns dangerous. The enemy changed tactics. 4 Neuraxis cruisers broke formation and dived toward the planet. Straight toward the colony. Captain Rourke slammed his fist down. They're trying to bomb the settlement. Redirect Omega Wing. Now. 6 human fighters broke off, engines blazing. They chased the cruisers with furious speed, firing plasma bursts that lit up the darkness. 2 enemy ships exploded instantly. But the remaining 2 continued falling, flaming, burning, heading toward the atmosphere. Rourke watched in horror. Impact trajectory, surface settlement, the computer said. Commander Hale. Rourke shouted through comms. Incoming strike. 90 seconds. The colony braces. On the ground, Hale heard the warning and looked up. The sky was burning. Two giant flaming shapes tore through the clouds. Shockwaves rolled across the land. Dust blew sideways. Animals screamed and ran. Mara's voice cracked. Sir, if they hit the colony... They won't, Hale said. He activated the emergency ground shield system. For huge metal towers around the colony began to glow. Energy rose between them like a shimmering wall of light. The shield snapped into place just as the two enemy ships roared overhead. Boom, boom. Both cruisers hit the shield with earth-shaking force. Fire spread across the barrier, but the shield held. Refugees screamed, but they were still alive. Hale exhaled slowly. We hold, he whispered. Up in space, humanity strikes back. Rourke's eyes burned with anger. They tried to hit civilians, he said softly. They crossed the line. He raised his hand. All ships, full offensive. Break them. The human fleet moved as one, engines roaring, weapons blazing. Energy beams cut through swarm ships. Missile storms tore apart enemy formations. Drones swarmed like angry fireflies. Humanity fought not for glory, not for empire, but for every scared refugee on the ground. The swarm ships began to break. Then they began to fall back. Retreat. But humanity did not chase. They only held the line. The aftermath of the first battle. On the surface, the shield slowly dimmed. Smoke drifted across the sky. Refugees found each other, hugging, crying, trembling, but alive. Hale looked at the burning marks on the shield towers and whispered, "This is only the beginning." Above him, the human warships maintained formation, silent protectors waiting for the next attack. The swarm had not been defeated, only pushed back. They would return, stronger, angrier, more determined, and humanity would be ready. Because now, it wasn't just about protection. It was about survival. For the refugees, for the colony, for the promise humanity made. And next time, the real war would begin.